We pretty much broke every record we previously had ever. So we pretty much smashed it. Paid people, I think it was over 650. Paid, so that's huge. Our previous one was probably around that, but that was with members and freebies and etc. So pretty special. We had it was a big effort from the committee getting all the advertising, getting the publicity out there. But we also had Michael Larkin come down from Channel 10 and do the news broadcast or the weather broadcast from there. So it was a big, exciting moment when it turned up on Friday. It was a little secret we had planned, so it was quite interesting and a bit of fun. So that was really good. But the show was a success because of the volunteers that we've had here who helped out. All the beautiful cooking and cooks. But Stella's still cooking away. Thank you guys. Trust me, it's a big effort to put on these shows, and it's all voluntary. We don't get paid to do it. We just get paid because we love it. Well, not get paid. We just do it because we love it, guys, and that's really what it is. So thank you to the volunteers. Thank you to the people that put trees in the show. Now I know some of you first time putting trees in the show, so thank you. I know Wesley here, she only was here a couple of months. Thank you. You put a tree in first go. A couple of months in and she put a tree in the show. That's what we like to see. I just remember you carrying out your tree, that's why I remembered. And congratulations to Quentin, of course, winning the People's Choice for his elder. Big black elder one, the big black elder one. Impossible to knock out a Queen, but I'd like to say there's some beautiful trees in the show, like really top quality trees. There's some that just, I know Quentin's always magnificent. His show at Cyprus was talked about non-stop, and his beach and his Mugo was unbelievable. Anyone with, sorry, I shouldn't say this, but whoever been in Bonsai a very long time and has Mugo pines, to see that Mugo with that tiny needles, incredible. So thank you, congratulations, Gordon, and thank you for all your support as well. So got People's Choice. What else? There was a line of probably 50 people or more outside on the Saturday to try and get in. That's how busy it was. Awesome. So anyway, thank you to everyone for helping out. I think that's a big applause for everyone. Thank you guys. Great work. So from the show, we get a lot of requests for beginners classes. And I know Helen's here, there's a number of others. Please see Barry. Barry's going to organise, there's Barry, put your hand up. We'll just get all your names down. We're trying to organise these classes because Ian's flat out. He loves giving these classes, Ian. So we'll try and squeeze him over 2 weeks this year. We'll try, okay? Oh, look, we're trying. We haven't booked him yet. That's how many people are wanting to do it, Ian. So we'll see how we go. Now, if you're new and you want to join, where's Sammy? Sammy's over there. Go see Sammy if you haven't talked to Sammy if you want to join the club. We've got Michael, hand up. We've got Raffle. Raffle, please buy raffle tickets. It's the only thing I really ask you to do the whole night is buy raffle tickets. The money helps pay for this venue. So usually it covers our costs if we get enough in. There's some nice prizes there to win. And you want to talk to Michael, he'll look after you as always. The bar, we've got the bar open until 8 p.m. So Ted's not here, so it usually opens longer, but 8 p.m. if you want to drink now. We have some, if you're interested in another show, the Vietnamese Bonsai Club has a show in October, start of October. It's just in Sunshine, I think, Sunshine? Yes, Sunshine. I'm actually a member of the club as well. So I'm not Vietnamese, but I'm still a member of the club, aren't I? That's pretty cool. So I'll leave some of these pamphlets up the back. There's some little Japanese maples left over that I was trying to sell at the show. I sold about 100 of them. There's a few left there. If you're interested, come and see me. That's the announcements. So tonight, what's tonight all about? You'll see these beautiful trees here up on stage. Not all of them we're going to talk about. Mainly the junipers and the conifers and the pines we'll talk about because we're leaving the deciduous trees for another time in a couple of months. Something special coming up in a couple of months' time there. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Quentin, Matt and Jared, who are some of our experienced members in the club. So what they'll do, they'll critique the trees as they come onto here. And they'll give their ideas and opinions on the tree, good, bad, ugly, whatever. But most likely it's what's good about the tree, what's maybe you can improve on, how can this tree be better pot, take off this branch maybe, this is what happens here and there. So I'm not prompting them, but it's pretty much listen out for little bits that you'll pick up on. I mean, then you can try and apply it to your trees. So that's the kind of information we're going to share tonight. There's not much else to say then other than that, so please welcome. Who's going to go first? Quinn, Matt and Jared, welcome guys.
We haven't got a tree up here yet, so I'll start off. These critiques are meant to be constructive, so we're not going to pull holes in anybody's trees. We do a lot of these at another club I'm a member of, and we bounce a lot of things off the audience. It's not going to quite work that way tonight. Probably, for instance, this tree, for instance, Jared might start off with, he might talk for however long he talks, and if there's a point that he hasn't covered that Matt and I see, we might point that out. So I suspect that's how it'll work. It won't necessarily be an equal row from each of us on each tree, but someone will start on the tree and then the rest of us will pop throw in perhaps a suggestion when Jared's finished. I'm just saying Jared on it, who's going to do this tree first up. But if you see points in the crowd there and say, well, what about this? Just call them out and we'll try and answer whatever your query might be. So, Jared, you want to start off on this tree?
Okay, thank you. I saw this tree at the exhibition last week and I learned that it was one of the trees from the beginners class a couple of years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And it's typical of some of the stuff you see at the beginners class. It's difficult material. It's got a very sudden bend down here and then a very straight piece. It's a little bit thicker here than it is down here. And there's issues with the tree that can be better, but gee, it's come a long way in a couple of years. And what the owner's done is made a couple of really wise decisions. We've got just a typical structure for any bonsai, for any conifer, where it's got one branch here, one branch here. The crown of the tree is leaning forward a bit. All that's desirable. It's got lots of left and right and backward and forward movement, so it makes it interesting. But this has always been a problem, and we've got to live with that. It's ideal if a trunk comes slightly at an angle out of the ground, and in this case, this tree doesn't do that. It comes straight up and then it turns stumpily. And this part here is where the eye is drawn to. But by having a big mass of foliage here and a big mass of foliage here, it draws the eye away from that. Also, a big branch coming straight at the viewer here. That is not a desirable thing, but it's a wise decision to keep it for now because the tree needs strength. Junipers are going to get all their strength from the foliage, so to leave that branch there for the time being, I don't have a problem with. I'm quite happy that they've decided to keep that. I might pass on to
yeah, I had a quick look at it. I didn't know this tree was in the exhibition, so this is the first time I've seen it, but I thought I could offer a little bit.
Can you rotate?
Yeah. Offer a little solution for this this kink here, and I might just keep it on this side while I do this. That way we get the trunk coming out of the ground, not perpendicularly hot, so then you create a bit of extra movement. Personally, I would cut a lot off this tree. I would make it like a little cascade style over here, make this the apex and then this branch, and then make an interesting return gin here and little tend gin here. But if the owner wanted to keep this style, they're on the right track anyway, so it's not the end of the world that you don't take my suggestion, I guess. But if you were to keep it this style, this branch is probably too heavy for this height in the tree, and coming from the inside of that bend is a little bit jarring. It brings your eye to that area far too much. You concentrate on this area, so I would consider at least bringing that branch back to one of these finer pieces and then restyling that branch. But otherwise, it's pretty good for a beginner tree. And I could imagine that this would have been something that was quite raw when they first received it. So to hear that it's a relatively like new or young tree and one of its first stylings, they're on the right track. So yeah.
Matt, I like the angle that you've created there for the bottom of the tree. Would you, where that straight piece is halfway up the trunk, would you try and then bend that back towards you so you get the apex over the base? Are you happy with that angle?
It's pretty close to the.
It is, yeah.
To the
Okay.
centre,
Yeah.
so I'm not too fussed about that. If you did want to do get it closer, I would maybe bend somewhere that's a bit softer, maybe not that big bit. And you can also exaggerate or soften bends with shari. So, for example, you can put shari on the inside of the bend, and then as the candium heals and starts to swell on the outside, it exaggerates that bend and softens or tightens the bend on the inside. So, careful use of shari can really help you out in situations like that.
Can you just pull it around to the front and just point to where we we're just talking about for the newer members?
Is this what you're talking about here?
Yeah.
So Barry was suggesting that we try and bend this. I would probably try and bend from in here, or even just up here. Just bring it over. Maybe some pretty good guy wires down here somewhere, and just pull it in that direction. Yeah.
Are you happy with the front face?
Yeah, I mean,
What's the other side?
it's marginal. Yeah, Jared was right. Having a back branch on the front is kind of high risk, but this side is rather uneventful, so I'm sort of more leaning towards the original front or the current front. But this gym does help us out of this situation with this branch here. So it sort of camouflages that. So yeah, I'm not too fast. Another thing we could do is also utilise this branch here as the apex. So we just bring the height down and bring everything, into proportion a bit more. But bending this branch up and creating a new apex, and then we've solved that central problem. So that's something else to consider. But for now, just feed it like crazy.
Matt sort of has covered a lot of things I was thinking of. Big problem with these trees is just no taper from bottom to top, and you'll never get that taper. So, as it's been done, I can see it's been done in a beginner's class, and part of the beginner's class is to talk about right, left, back, all that sort of thing. I think the time now has come for this tree to actually go on to and it requires a lot of work, I don't know whose tree it is, but it needs to be, I think, a whole new change of tree now with this. And I agree with Matt, I think we need to get rid of that coming straight out of the ground, which both Jared and Matt have suggested. Another option too would be to come the other way. And then, really, I want you, whoever owns it, I want you to put a massive bend in here. It's just another option. Nothing wrong with the tree you've got. Really big bend here. All this top bit goes, and we tighten up this whole tree and perhaps make the tree out of this branch here, this one. I don't think that'll play a part, but it's just another option to think about. just to tighten the whole thing up, because you're always going to have a taperless trunk here, and yes, it looks like a nicely placed branching tree, but if you can get some taper into the trunk, it will be a lot better, and you're never going to get it the way it is. You'll have to come back to one of these lower branches, whoever it happens to be. As Matt said, you can get perception of taper in there by running some shari down whatever area you want to do that to. The best part of this tree is up to about here, then it gets really pretty ordinary. So why not work with the best part and get rid of the worst part? That's where I'd be going with it. It can go that way, you can have it slanting the way Matt's got, go down a similar direction, but then by cranking that part down there, this throws this right down close to the ground. If I was going to grow it myself, I'd be looking to tilt it that way and squeeze it down here. Now that requires a bit of bonsai skill, technical skill. It's not hard to do, but you've got to know how to do it. It might even require some sort of jack, the screw-up jacks, that sort of thing. But it can be done. So a nice tree. If you're going to keep it as it is, this pot really doesn't work. The pot's just too big and too heavy for this tree. The pot really needs to be a lot thinner, maybe half or even less than half, to work properly with this tree. Having said that, the tree's in very good health. There's a few little brown spots on there. I think that's just where bits have been pinched out, probably getting in readiness for the show, because these things are subject to a lot of problems. You get mites, you get scale, there is a fungal problem, though I don't think that's a huge issue with them. So you do get browning off on a lot of branches, and all of a sudden you lose a branch, but this one is in very, very good health. So whoever owns it's doing a very good job. But seriously think about trying to either remove this part or making it a lot more interesting. For me, we want to make our trees interesting. They need to be artistically good, but they also need to be interesting. And for me, you lose a lot of interest from about here, from here to the top. So yeah, that's probably about all I want to say about this particular tree. Any thoughts out there? I'm supposed to get a bell when we're supposed to finish.
No, you're right.
Any thoughts? Anybody got any suggestions? Because how these things work really well, if you guys bounce a few ideas back and we can say... You can we can air layer off if you want. There's no rights or wrongs in these sessions. None of us are right, none of us are wrong. They're just different opinions. So throw out an idea if you want, and whoever owns the tree, there's nothing wrong with the way it is. We just see it differently. Yeah.
For a tree of that size, how long would it take to develop enough sort of a root structure if you air layered to get 2 trees out of it?
Oh, they'll air layer quite quickly.
I was going to say, when we did this in Japan, we would actually approach graft a whole lot of little trees on, like little saplings or yearlings, and then once they've taken, you can cut it off and basically got a ready to go root system. So, but that is a process.
You can easily, these will just go from an air layer very easily as well. This particular juniper, I'd be even happy to take a ring bark, put this all the way around. Some junipers I wouldn't, I'd perhaps tend to use a tourniquet on it. This particular variety, ring bark it all the way around. If you know what I'm meaning here, I'm taking off the bark all the way around the tree down to below the cambium, putting some hormone powder on it, putting some growing media there with a escaping moss or potting mix. And you would, if you put this on now, maybe a little bit early to put it on now, but maybe in about another month, I would do that. And you should have roots on that easily by January, without any problem.
All right, Dave.
2 trees that quickly. Okay. do know this was in the show. I didn't really get a good chance to look at it. I need to put my glasses on now to get a better look at it.
What is it?
It's an olive, sorry.
Thank you.
And whoever's growing it, I think I know the owner, but I won't. No, I will ask him. Can I?
Yeah.
Maria, wherever she is. So what was the angle at this when it came out of the ground, do you know?
No idea. I'll ask Peter.
No, I'm just wondering why you tilted it that way. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but you've got a massive big base here. We have nothing over this side, but that's not a real issue. No, I was just wondering. So you've got it from Peter?
Yeah, I bought it at the show about 5 years ago.
Okay. Well, you've kept it looking really good. The tree's in really good health. You don't seem to have any dieback on any of the branching. I think I'd probably just stand it up a little bit. This is not really knowing what's under the roots there. Just to bring the top more over this part of the tree rather than, but to me, if it's down here, it looks like it's just falling over a bit too much. I'd like to see it stood up a little bit. And if we're going to do that, I think this is the front, where you've got the front, because we have this branch at the back here. Now these things are not easy to move branches, but if that was the front, I'd try to ease this one just around a little bit so it sits in about here, just so we can see it poking out a little bit under here. Now that I've stood it up, some of the branches may need to be just come down a little bit, particularly that one there. And I'm not fussed that, you know, when you look at the books and that sort of thing, and you know, your first branch has got to be the longest one, etc., etc. I don't think it really matters to have a shorter one and then a longer one up the top there. So that doesn't, I'm not after it to be cut down through there. I'm quite happy to have the branches where they are. Just slightly manipulate them a little bit more. And I think the pot sort of matches the tree. It might be a little bit large, but for this, a little bit deep, but for this tree, it works in rather than when we talked about that juniper, I think it just didn't work the size of the pot. But this one's not too bad, because there's a lot of visual bulk up the top here. Now branching. I think just a little bit of worry, Maria. Open that up a little bit. This little guy here can go, it's not really needed. If you could swing this back one around a little bit there, and you can do it, but it'll just take you a little bit of time, just to bring it around this way so that we see it in there. And really, the rest of it's looking really quite good. You've got some discoloration there, I'm not sure what that is. You get many frosts out your way?
Not really. Well, we haven't had any.
Just looks like maybe a little bit of frost damage on the top. Sorry? Oh, right. So I like the deadwood here. I don't think you really need to lime sulphur or anything like that. Just leave the colour you've got there. But you have got some moss that's growing on top of the deadwood there. I'd like you to clean that off so that we just see the deadwood without moss growing all over it. And try and see, if you do put it at this angle, try and see what sort of roots are under there, which will scrape that way and have a look, just so we expose some roots there. There was a suggestion on the tree that's on display over there that, not necessarily with this tree, but if you could put a rock or something there. Not sure I really like that option, but you could think about it. See what sort of roots you've got there first before we do anything like that. Okay,
Craig,
yo.
why would you remove the moss off the deadwood there?
Well, I think we really want to see the deadwood better than having moss over it. Eventually you'll just get, the moss will just grow over there. It will also start to speed up the deterioration of that deadwood, because it will keep it moist much longer. I mean, people know olives are really hard, but the wood does rot reasonably quickly. I know it might sound funny, but it does rot quite quickly, so I think by keeping the moss there, it's going to make it go away. Yeah, so I'll definitely clean it up. If you did want to protect it with lime salt, you could do that, but you could just put some sort of colouring in the lime salt, or even use something like Earl's wood hardener, which will preserve it as well. Okay.
I'll take that out, even though I probably agree with that. One of the nicest things about bonsai is drawing comment about your trees. When someone comments on your tree, good or bad, it's nice to get feedback. But another one of the joys is looking at other people's trees. This tree I saw 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I was talking to Maria about it. Maria's saying to me, is this the front? Or is this the front? Talking to somebody, she had been suggested that this was the front. I said, I like that as the front. And the main reason, it's probably hard to see because the tree's elevated from where you're all sitting, but this part of the tree here, the dead wood, the gnarly growth of the bark, that's beautiful, and that's the feature of this tree, and that's what we want to show off.
So Jared, I make a suggestion. Put a couple of things under that side, lift it up so it's facing this way, so that you do show off that dead wood. Then you show off the dead wood, you've still got the tree. Then you can work on the branches.
And that's a good suggestion.
And
So
readjust the branches.
I'd still like it raised a little bit on the other side as well.
Still
Maybe it could be rolled forward a little bit.
Still raise it a little bit, but you're still going to be showing off that.
The tree is leaning a little bit forward, which is desirable. The top of the tree. You want your tree to be humble and coming towards you. The head of the tree is coming towards you. One of the lessons I learned.
Tilt it up as well.
Yeah, I've run out of chocks for the moment.
There's chocks at the back, but you want to show the deadwood off as a main feature.
You're going to throw me off my train of thought, so.
Well, you want some advice. You want comments, don't you?
Yeah, I forgot what I was saying.
The tree leaning forward slightly.
Yes, leaning forward. One of the lessons I learned very early on the piece is that the tree should be humble. If you've got a tree with its head tilted up, being proud, it's unattractive. So if we have our trees humble, the top of the tree bowed towards you, you're on the way to making a nice tree. And I just like the visual mass here. The other thing I wanted to say is the branches, I think they're starting to get a little bit heavy. I'd like to see just 1 or 2 branches taken out so that you can see through the tree a little bit. Just make a few more layers and just by a little bit of pruning. Not a lot, just to let you see through the tree, because I also like to see the back branches of the tree, not just the front.
Have too much to add. One of the ways you can help define the pads is first of all pinching off all the leaves on the underside of every branch, and then cutting in a way that will create quite a nice sharp profile to them. I've been wiring all my olives just like junipers, so wiring every tip out, down and up, and it's been giving me really good results just because of phototropism. So if you have branches come down like this and then all your buds want to come up, you just get that nice profile. So that's the only thing I'd suggest is taking the leaves off from the underside and then putting them back and then wiring out each bud, every single tip really, and getting rid of all the heavy stuff. I can see a few branches where the tips are quite heavy, so I would cut back to a lot finer stuff and probably feed it and let it grow out and get some whips on it and then wire it out. But that's including everything these two guys have said, so I really agree with all of these adjustments.
Just one point, I'm looking at the pots, I'd actually think it'd be better in an oval pot than the rectangular pot as well.
Or something, yeah, even mocha, which is bulging, like with the cut corners, or yeah, something less masculine than what it is in, because that's, yeah, I agree.
And when can you plant? When can you repot?
Look, really any time, but probably around about October would be best. But any time, please. I think that's all I need to say.
Any other questions?
It's in a Yamaki pot, so it's a good start. I think for this tree to be the best possible tree it can be, I would personally grow it out to the next size up. So tuning size. Yeah, so imagining everything's up here like this. Just that some of these branches are probably a bit tight, a bit too close to each other. So instead of, my initial thought was to do the same thing as that and cut here or make a tangent and make the whole tree out of this one branch. But there has been a lot of work put into this trunk and this branch structure, probably too much to consider the chop, and so I would recommend taking it to the next size level, and then you can explore all the movement and the branch structure without sort of really removing too much of this tree. And also I think one of the things we look for in sort of like an informal upright or all styles that aren't Bunjin really, or in the Bunjin family, is the widest base at the point of entry of the soil. So I think with the way this branch structure is set up, that location is actually off centre of the front of the pot. So roughly around there. Nice little twist at the base here, and these branches come right off the outside of each of the bends. And so that works really well. So I would consider that as the new front for the owner to look at. But yeah, I think it needs to be fed, needle plucked and grown out, and take it to the next size. But you can pretty much leave it in that pot. I mean, that pot is good for a 40cm tree with a canopy here on top of a tree like this. So that pot is still pretty good for it. So I think that's all I recommend for that tree. Good amount of fertiliser too.
Look, a nice little tree. I don't know, the roots here bother me a little bit. I'm not sure that these little fine little roots sticking out here really work with this tree. If you wanted to keep them, I think I'd be actually mossing up underneath them, so giving an impression of a large base, but I'd probably end up getting rid of them. I also looked at the possibility of removing the top and just going with this one branch, this one branch here, but it's a bit cool, Dave, to do that. Having said that, I think this tree could be improved a lot with some really structured wiring on it. I did see this one here might bring it out best. See these two branches here? How they're sort of almost like frog's legs in there and there. You'd be better off if you can bring that right in close and then don't bring it out. We haven't got a whiteboard, have we? Don't bring it out that way first and then bring it down. You're better off taking it down and then bringing it out the other way. So we're getting the branches sort of coming down and going out like that rather than going out like that. And there's a few other spots on the tree where it's done that, where we've done that. Now for a tree, this was on exhibition last week. So I see some chop-off points here that have clearly been branches at one time or wide, and then you've decided you didn't need them, you've cut them. So the wire's still on them, the bark is still on it, so they're not gins. So you can either gin it, but they're way too small for gin it. So I think when you decided to cut that branch off here, probably you should have actually cut it off and rewire it rather than just left. Or if you wanted to leave it as a gin and you wanted your wire on, that's all well and good. There's another one up the top here. This is just for exhibition. You know, lovely little tree, but just to take it to that next level. And I do think a really thorough rewiring of this, I imagine this is probably like a lot of my pines at home. You wired them last year, you didn't need to take the wire off, but you had to wire a few more bits, so then you rewire it, and it's really hard to wire that way because you're trying not to cross wires, and you've got 3 or 4 years of wiring on some of my trees, and the wiring is really awful sometimes. It's only when you take everything off and redo it again that you can actually do it properly. And I think that's how you would take this tree to the next level. Take off all the wire, rewire everything, place everything. I think this first branch here, it's a very wide branch. It starts here, goes all the way around to there. Maybe there's an option to take out. At this point here, we have 1, 2, 3 at that point there. Maybe you take out that piece, at least you only got 2 there at that point, and then you've got this massive big fan of a branch there. So I think I'd think of that as well. This one here, once again, everything's coming down at the same level. It might be possible to somehow just develop some separate little pads in there somehow. Like Matt said, we've got a lot of branches in there. I don't really think there's too many for the tree, but I think it needs a full rewire and just tighten everything up, make it look really spec. It can be, it's a nice little tree, but I think it needs a really solid rewiring. You've got to have time to do that. To wire this tree fully, it's probably take a full day to do it properly. You know, it's not a quick job. And the trouble is we've all got too many trees, so we never ever do the jobs properly. Interestingly, up the top here, you can see there's been no foliage there. What Dave's done is he's brought this branch back in, and sometimes you've got to do that. It might not be great, but you have to do it. When you've got foliage there, you've got to find it somehow. Maybe you could have perhaps used the one you've got at the top there, brought that one back down into that spot and turn one of those across the top. But yeah, nice little tree. Jerry.
We've got a lot of people here tonight who might be at their first meeting and just absolute beginners. And we're saying a few things that maybe they don't understand. When we talk about gin, we're talking about that a branch that has died, or we sometimes cut a branch and leave the stub of the branch and stain it white, so it looks like dead wood on the tree and enhances the age of the tree. So that's what we're talking about when we say gin. Shari is a similar thing when we've got dead wood on the trunk of the tree or running along the branch, but the branch or the trunk is still alive. So gin and shari are something that we talk about a lot, and if you didn't know what that was, I'll sort of clarify that. This root here has always been a problem, I'm sure, David. You've never been too sure what to do with it. I would be inclined to pull it in closer to the trunk when you repot it and just have it follow the trunk a little bit and go out. We didn't touch on, what we're critiquing tonight is mostly conifers, and we don't get the opportunity to make a comparison. Most conifers as a general rule, most conifers, the branches will go downwards from the trunk. You have the main trunk and you have the branches going downwards. Most deciduous trees, the branches will go out and upwards. So we don't have any deciduous trees, or I don't think we've got any deciduous trees we're critiquing tonight. But I just want to make that point. With this tree, conifers, I like to have direction in conifers, where they're leaning one way or leaning the other way, and you have one branch going out and the other side coming in close. So it just gives a little bit of motion to the tree. This one, I would like to see it tilted just a little bit this way. I think it's just a little bit too upright. So I like it with the apex. I'd like the apex going out this way a little bit, and this branch maybe extended a little bit. As Matt was saying, the whole structure of the tree could be extended a bit. I'd like this side extended more to make the movement go this way. And maybe the front a little bit that way. But really lovely little tree, and lots of branches, lots of good structure that can be worked on in the future. I also agree with Quentin, this pad here, that's become a real fan. A tree will look older if you separate a big pad like that into two separate pads. And that'll happen in the future, I'm sure. Okay, any other comments on this tree? I climbed all the way down and I'm back up again. The first thing I noticed about this tree was not a good thing, is the lichen on the trunk. Every branch, the trunk has got a lot of lichen on it, and I worry that may affect the health of the tree. It certainly affects the bark, and you want attractive bark on your trees. So there are measures you can take to reduce the amount of lichen, and I think it's probably time to do something with this tree. I don't know if you can see it from down there, you can probably see it on the screen. That lichen on the trunk is not good. Moss on the surface of the pot's wonderful, but lichen on the trunk and on the bark is not a great thing. This is a tree I saw in the exhibition last week, and I stopped and looked at it, and I went back and looked at it. It's just a tree that has got something different about it. It's not the same as every other tree, and I found that appealing. It's got this big hanging branch. Some people might suggest that you take off that branch. What does the tree look like without that branch? You could take it off. I wouldn't. I reckon it's wonderful. I reckon it's a great feature of the tree, and I'd like to keep that. What is also wonderful about this tree is what goes on down here. From the ground up to the first branch here, it's wonderful twisting shape. You can see the bark twisting around the trunk. That's really beautiful. This branch hides it, and I would definitely like to reduce this branch a little bit. Take something off it so you can see this. The other thing, I think back branches are very important. You've got back branch here, but what I would like to see, I was talking about branches on the conifers dropping down. You want to see through the tree, but you don't want to see back here. So this back branch, I would like to see this just lowered a bit so you see the underside of the branch rather than, when you're viewing from here, you see the underside of this branch and it stops the eye passing straight through. And that's the purpose of the back branches. So I'd like to see this back branch lowered a little bit. And I'll pass on to the others, but a really interesting tree to stop and look at.
Yeah, I will use the towel, I think, and a wedge. I think the tree just falls too far that way. So I'll be wanting to tilt it up. I mean, most of the trees we look at tonight, one or all of us has actually changed the planting angle. And for me, this one needs to be planted at about that angle. And if we do that, I think we need to remove this branch, or gin it. Gin it, that's a gin, and Gerald was talking about Canadian, you don't know, that sort of thing is called a gin. So we could do the same with this branch, kill it off, and then gin it. So if we did that, we might have to just crank that one down a little bit, which is easily done. And one of the problems with this branch is this piece that sticks up, maybe it's just got knocked in the car or something, but that, by pulling it down, that improves it. I'll probably also pull that down a little bit as well. And Jared's right, I think, if this black branch, if we tilt it at this angle, this has got to come down and just be brought into about here, so we see it through there. And the top bothers me a little bit. I think you've got a really nice trunk line from here all the way up to here, then we go a little bit straight. I'd be trying to just put a little bit more movement in this top bit, bringing it back and then taking it back that way. So we put the actual end of the top of the tree ends up being about here, not over here. So perhaps just bring that back and then just push a bit of forward that way. I like this long branch. Don't see that as a problem at all. What I do see is if you bring this branch down, you bring this one down, this branch in particular is a classic example of it. See here, we have no foliage at all in here. So you could cover that up by bringing this down, or you could bring off this little one, swing it around to sit in there somewhere, just to fill in that whole lot of bare branching. And there's a few bare spots like that which needs to be resolved by bringing some of these back in or bringing the upper branch down on top of it. But a nice old piece, very old piece, and for a juniper, which I assume is the same species as, it's not the same seed, it's procumbent, isn't it?
That's squamata.
It's a squamata?
That's
Okay.
one of our state tuners.
Okay, so it's a pretty old one, but I really do like summer, and I really like this feature here. I don't know whether that's a root or a gin, but or a branch, but I really like that. So that'll be my sort of comment as far as it goes. Pot works really well.
If you say, you gin the back branch.
I wasn't going to gin this one.
Sorry, that one, yeah. Does that make it unbalanced?
Well, I'd be wanting to stand it up. I wouldn't gin it if I wasn't standing it up.
How big a gin would you do it?
Oh, well, it can be in, you know, if you want to keep that length, this one would be maybe about the same length, maybe a little bit shorter. And this comes down. So if this goes, this would come down a bit. Personally, I don't think it unbalances it. But it's, you know, something that has to be considered. So this angle, that gone, that down, this branch that Jared said round a little bit, try and fix up the bald patch that's on this branch, we maybe work on here. So
If you take that, in that one that you wanted, this other front one is hiding
This
the
guy?
front. Could you bring that towards the back and bend it the same way? You did a fairly strong line, but bend it the same way as the trunk, so bend it up and then down. to follow the same line as the back and put it more towards the back?
Look, I don't mind where it is, Sally. You could, but I don't mind it where it is.
Because you can't see the bend in the trunk and the beauty of the trunk.
But I'm not sure that that's the best part of the trunk to be seen. It's a bit sort of, if you look at it from that angle, it's fairly straight. So that just sort of cuts a little bit of that straightness out of it. So I don't really have a problem with where that branch is. This one I do. I think that needs to come down the top. But look, you know, it's all...
I thought standing it up made that trunk so much more visible. That became less of a problem.
I just want to add to everything that's been said, because it's pretty much exactly in line with what I've thought about the plan for this tree. However, I would also include this branch here in the jigging process, leaving this front here, leaving this one, but these two extensions here, I'd probably get rid of those, and then pull this back branch here into that place to fill that little void there. So, but keeping the same front, and yeah. I don't know if we have time to get into it, but we also need to. I see this quite a bit, and I don't really blame the people who do it, but bunching up the foliage like this on a juniper is not the way to get the best results. You actually want to wire out every single tip separately and out and down. And when we say lift the buds or lift the tips, nowhere near as much as this. It's literally just like the ever so slightly more than horizontal. So personally, I would go through and cut all of these out into single branches and then wire every single tip out. So I know it's a lot of work and it's quite hard to do that, but yeah, you will then, the tree will be a cut above the rest. So that's something for everyone to practice, I guess. And I do agree with Quentin, this section here is extremely straight, and by putting movement into it, you'll lose a bit of the height, so it will bring that apex back down in line with where the silhouette should be on this tree. You can pretty much see the silhouette where these branches that I suggested you cut off extend out beyond that silhouette, so that's how I would address this tree. And as far as those back branches go, yeah, just wiring them out. Another thing I just thought of that I have been doing in my own trees and some client trees as well, is a lot of people don't know of the ability to create movement through placing foliage pads. We always think that you've got to have this sort of triangle shaped tree and like the branch above needs to come in and so on and so forth. But if you pull the branch in tighter down low and then let another branch out wider up higher and continue this process all the way up, you can create movement on the outside of the tree as well as movement on the inside of the tree, and you can achieve that here with these branches. So there'd be something to consider, just creating some movement here, and that would just really make this tree pop. I think that would really set this tree off. So
is this maintained just by pinching? You cutting, because you should be. I mean, in the past we were always taught to go and just pinch junipers, just pinch out the tips, which is really not the way to go. You should be doing more like Matt's saying, selecting individual leaders on each little piece and then cutting out the rest, and then when you get a back shoot, that can be promoted later on. We shouldn't just go around pinching because that really doesn't help the strength of the tree.
Can I quickly explain that process? So it's really easy, there's a bit of a checklist. Any growth that's growing in between, you'll always see this sort of like armpit hair on junipers. They really like to bud in the crotch. So get rid of that. Anytime you have 3, cut the middle one out, so you've just got 2. And I'm talking on the very delicate folds. You'll never see a large crotch emerge from this process. And anything growing straight down or straight up, it's that easy. And then you'll have the winding branches, like you see all the drawings in the books, and then you just wire every single bud out and down and out. And it's really easy.
What it does show ready for you to make one adjustment by tilting it leads to a lot of other things that have to be done, not just one thing. So it's a big call. You can make a radical change in planting angle, or you remove a key branch. It does mean a lot of other things got to be changed. Okay, you want to take this guy? So it's another juniper of some sort. I'm not sure which juniper this is. Yeah, it's a juniper. I should know its name. Wonderful fruit salad or something. No, I don't think it's that. Okay, so this is a fairly young tree. Okay, I'm going to throw it out to you guys. What strikes you about this tree? Anybody? It's straight, but does that matter necessarily?
Half dead.
No, it's not half dead. It's all alive. It's quite alive. I think what we've got is big, long, spreading branches, thin little trunk. You know, for a trunk this size, like this branch size, width really equates to almost a trunk width of that. It doesn't. So we need to reduce the width of this. Now, it's not easy on this tree because you can see there's a lot of bare space there, but it's a type of juniper. Someone asked, what is it? That's a type, I don't know which juniper. So we need to think about bringing this foliage back in. We could do it in some ways with using the branches we've got, by just wiring them all down really tightly. But these are pretty thick branches now, which might be fairly difficult to do. So for the owner, I'd seriously, you've got this tree quite healthy. Well, I think it's reasonably quite healthy. I know Lola said it was half dead, but I couldn't say. We can't see
that far.
Look, it's quite healthy. The colour of it is it's in its winter colour. These things tend to bronze off a little bit in winter, and that's why it's looking a little bit bronze, but the tree is really quite healthy. So seriously think about trying to pull the branching back in. Also, is this at the back of the tree, whoever owns it? Is that the back where the tag is, or is that the front?
No, that's the back.
That's the back, okay. I thought it would be, I just wanted to make sure. So, I would be tempted, once again I'm going to use a little bit of a wedge, not much, just to, you can see it just falls over that way. If we just bring the top above the trunk would help a lot too, I think. So, maybe just slightly that way. The root base is really quite nice. You can see a nice solid root base. This root here is a bit of an issue.
That will go.
Sorry?
That will go.
It can go, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah, look, it might be better if it did. It's a fairly serious root there. I suspect you can get rid of it because you've got this root here, which is almost under it. So I think if you did remove that, you wouldn't have too many adverse effects. So, and do what was done on the other juniper, where it was turned into a gin here. See the I assume that was a root, yeah? Yeah, so do the same here, just make a little short little gin, doesn't have to be I wouldn't make a long one, just a short little gin in there. And then think about trying to pull these branches back in. And you can do that by just promoting, for instance, on this branch, we've got all that length. If you then made that the leader on this branch, it then shortens that back in a lot because you've got a lot more foliage to work with on that. So try and find a spot on each of these branches. It's going to be difficult on this one because our first branch is right out here. But that's the biggest problem with this tree, I find, is you've got this big, broad, expansive branch, quite a thin trunk. So try to pull them back in by promoting other branches back further in as the leaders on that, and either removing those or ginning them if you wanted to. And ginning probably wouldn't hurt in some cases. You don't want that to go overboard. I think we've lost the opportunity to pull everything down. Could be done, but that is a fairly risky business, especially with that branch. Now, did you do all the wiring on this? For a beginner, wiring, or I'll say it's a beginner because that's what I've been told, it's a very good wiring job. You've done a really good job, so you should be pretty proud of that. I know we get a bit wound up with wiring bonsai clips. Some of us get a bit arguing about it, but there's a reason for it, because if you wire properly, it actually holds the branch better. It's also much easier when you actually come to take the wire off if it's been wired properly without lots of crossing wire, all that sort of thing. So this is a good wiring job. It probably stopped too soon. We probably could have done some more up here. We've got a really flat top up here. So up here we needed to bring something up as probably that as the top, bring those down, shorten them back. So we start to get that, I won't say conical look, but rather than a flat top tree, I'd like it a bit more pointed or rounded at the top and then brought down. So I'd like to see the tree start about here and then come back down through about here. It'll be hard work because some of those branches won't lend themselves readily to be shortened back. The really difficult one is this one. The rest you can take back a little bit. All these can come back to a secondary branch and that can become the leader. It's only that one which you might have to work your way around and substitute with something like that or gin that one off. And yeah, think about those sorts of things.
A couple of things I should say about junipers. They get all their strength from the foliage. Someone suggested this tree wasn't very healthy. It's a variegated species, so it's got these yellow flecks through it. And I've seen these look quite beautiful, but they need to be kept really healthy. And anyone who works on junipers, if you give them a lot of work as far as removing branches and pruning them very heavily, don't repot them at the same time. You do a little bit of work in the repot them, or work on the branching, but don't do it at the same time. If you get a tree from a nursery, the temptation is to wire it up, shape it up, repot it, and have your bonsai ready to go. And so many trees don't survive that. So don't try and overdo it all at once. Don't be too keen to get into a pot if you've just done styling. And this tree, as I get up closer to it, it's a lot healthier than what I thought. But I agree with Quentin. You've got to try and bring the branches back and work on this fine stuff, because that's beautiful. You don't... Thick branches up high in the canopy of the tree, they don't belong. The branches high in the canopy should be finer branches. So where you can, you keep the finer branches and grow your structure from that, and try and keep as much foliage on it as possible to keep it strong, at the same time as shorten it. I know that sounds like a contradiction, but you want to keep a fair bit of foliage on it and just selectively choose what you're not going to keep and cut back there. That's about all I've got to say.
Any questions? I just wanted to say thanks to Anne for bringing it in. She's the only one to reply to my email to say bring your trees in and nominate, so thank you very much.
Can I just say before we get the next tree up, there's probably quite a few people here, maybe to their first meeting, who came as a result of the exhibition. So a lot of these things we're talking about might sound a bit technical, so don't get too wound up. We're not that anal about these things when you bring your trees in. We try to point you in the right direction, but as I said before, there's no rights and there's no wrongs. We just see things a bit differently sometimes. So I don't know, it's probably a workshop next month. Yes? Yeah, so don't be afraid to bring your trees in. we'll give you the best advice we can, and you just do what you guys want to do. That's what it comes down to. It's not what I want, what Matt wants, what Jared wants.
We don't even agree with each other.
We don't, no. You know, probably on every one of these trees, if it was in my backyard, it'd look different to what would in Matt's, and it'd look different again to what it would in Jared's, and none of us would be wrong. So it's nothing to be afraid about bringing your trees in and being critiqued or being assisted with. We get one pretty nice to us most of the time.
Yeah, I really like this tree. It's a really good tree. The front. Was the front the way it was set up over there?
I think it was, yeah. Close enough.
Yeah. I would recommend, so it was set up as this is the front.
Close, yeah.
Yeah.
Between the legs.
A little bit that way.
That way.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, I would recommend more.
More.
Yeah. This trunk line is just, this is some of the best stuff I've ever seen in Australia. So, yeah, this trunk line, by turning it this way, it would show it off. It would also curve this root away from coming straight at you. So if it's coming off in this direction, it's a bit softer and a little bit less accusing. And then I would do something about this branching here, either bringing it down and shortening it, or removing it completely. I haven't got that much time to figure that, but maybe just pulling it more towards the front and filling in this little area and hiding this the bones of this section here. And that would reveal more of this interesting trunk line. And wherever the trunk line isn't really doing you any favours, just little sections of shari, probably on the inside of beams, or if you really wanted to go all out, you could do a spiralling shari, which connects all the insides of each beam. So I'd have a shari that then comes around this trunk line here, all the way up. And you can just do that slowly, bit by peeling it and using a knife to get yourself a really nice shari. And then you have a really nice lifeline, what do you call it? Live vein on the outside of each bend, which will continue to thicken and exaggerate all those bends all the way up. But it's already styled really well. The apex could be opened up. A lot of people have trouble with apexes, especially on junipers. The easiest way is to, even if it's thin, is to evenly distribute all the tips across. So even if it's very thin, they make sure they're all the same distance from each other. It'll fill out because it's at the top of the tree. The sun will come, it'll fill out. So maybe just open these up, and maybe just tying up the wiring, getting everything nice and flat, taking off the fluff from underneath the branches. But other than that, yeah, really cool little tree.
I really like this guy. Perhaps it's leaning back a little bit, maybe come forward just a fraction. I think it is time to start working on shari. The trunk is fantastic. The root base here, I don't know if you've seen that. The root base is beautiful, just very stable for a tree that's going all over the place. The roots are stable, and that's really just adds something special. This gin, it's quite obvious where it's been cut off, but that's, I'd like to see you start the deadwood under that. That will be the first place. And you've got a little bit of a knot here, but there's plenty of place. When you're looking for deadwood, you can touch the trunk and you find flat spots where there's not a lot of sap flowing, and there's raised spots where you can see that's where the main lifeline is. So it's easy to make shari in those flat spots just by tracing your pick. I can feel there's a flat spot across the top there. And it's nice if a shari moves around the trunk rather than being all on the front or all on the side. If it's visible from the front of the tree and then it moves around to the back and then reappears, and it's not evenly spaced like a corkscrew, longer wide angle parts of the shari that gets tighter in different places. You can really do some nice work with that. The gin here, I'm not sure. Don't know if it needs it or not. This long curve here, I think it's maybe a bit dry hard. I'd like to shorten it, but that's mine. I think. Gorgeous tree. Question?
How old is that tree?
I would guess be about 15. Good guess.
I'd double that.
We like to our trees to look older than what they really are. So if we can double what it really is, then we're winning.
Did you grow that old?
It was about 15 years ago, I think, just cutting.
Just around. It looks like it was around.
You just wire it, you see.
That's what I wanted to comment on, nothing else about the tree, was you all had the opportunity, was it last month?
Yeah, so
to do that sort of thing. We can't change this now. If we've got a straight one there, we can't change it. So this has to be put in at about the stage it was last month with harm. And you've only got to wait 15 years and you can do that. So, yeah, I'm not sure about the gin either. This long bit that kicks up here, I think, could be removed. You could just kick it back to about that bit there.
Quentin, keep it on the turntable.
Can't see it.
I can't chase you.
Yeah, this long piece here, I think could be shortened back down to there somewhere. I don't think it kicking around up through there really helps all that much. And really no other comments other than what the other guy has said. This gym here could be fixed up. And yeah, a bit of shari along the trunk. Apart from that, a little lovely little piece.
I'll just add something. Trees with very long branches that come down and out, like this defining branch here. That needs to be reflected in the pot. So I would imagine a pot with a little bit of a flare and a lip, and make sure that your front is where the single foot is right at the front.
So is it between the legs or
between the fish? This is the front of the pot, like that.
with the footies?
Yeah. I thought it would be like that.
I thought it was
I got told off, so. Yeah, like that. And it often does make it. There was one tree at Touchland that I was always picking up because it was always falling over. I'm like, this is some surf, but that is the right way to do it. So, yeah. Thank you.
I've seen this tree a few times now, and I think it's probably time it was redesigned. We have some nice shari here at the front, which might be something to try and focus on. So we said we didn't know where the front was. I'm assuming that I might be looking at possible future front. So if I reckon, if we're going to try and make that shari there a feature, you can see that here, right up through here. I think that's even, I'm not going to peel the bark off there, but I'm sure it'll go all the way down to there, from there. Sam, you haven't put that there, that's just developed naturally. Yeah. Why would that have developed? Some whole beds of good, there's been a branch cut off here. Maybe some major branch, although it doesn't look like it there. It seems to have died back all down there. So if we try and make that, that's a really interesting part of this tree. So let's perhaps try and focus on that. Sometimes it doesn't always work to have a real feature like that work as the best front, but it's worth trying. So if we wanted to do that, I need to bring this forward because I'm going to change the top of the tree, I think. And like Jared said, maybe the block. Like Jared said, it's nice to have a direction in trees, whatever they are, whether they be anything, deciduous tree, broadleaf evergreen, conifer, they all need to have a direction. No, I've lost it. Take a little bit of time to try and find the right direction. I think somewhere like that could be the front. And I'm looking to take all of that off here. This will be the new apex up here. It's locked. No, it's all right. That will probably be the new apex there. So all that's going to go. I think that branch is going to go. So I need to be able to cover up some of this stuff. So. I don't know how many towels we've got. Only the one. If you are doing critiques in your own backyard, this towel technique or even a plastic bag or something over it works really well. Got nothing else that can cover the top? No, you make jacket for that one.
That's too big. That's all I have left.
Too dark.
See what's coming out of here. This is a nice wet tea towel. Okay, so
Not making it two-dimensional, are you?
there's a lot of back branches I think now to work with. It's probably not going to show you very well this. So when you said that, Belle, what did you mean by that?
Well, if you swing it round, it looks to me like all the back branches are gone. If we go back to where the front was.
The front here, we have a nice back branch here, which we can drag down into
Sort of
there.
side back.
And look, there might be more branches to come off, but we'll run out of tea towels. What I'm looking for is sort of a Bunyan style. This is obviously a very weeping sort of pine. This branch is not too bad where it is. I'll probably bring this one down as well. I don't know what that was on, probably on there. And so that's our crown. I think this branch would probably go as well. Like Jared said before, we've got some really heavy branches up the top of the tree. The one I've got covered is heavy, that one's heavy. This one was in the wrong place. This is also a bit heavy, but we need to keep something down there. So I'd be looking at a whole new style of tree. So we've got sort of we're not having very little foliage out this side. We can get a little bit by wiring some of this branching back that's on the apex. Some of that will go as well. So I'm removing probably 70% of the foliage from this tree. So it's going to come over this way, a little bit of foliage back here, back there. The main part of it is flowing this way, and a couple of drop branches in there. It's a real sort of Liberati style, if you like. Because at the moment, Sam, it's kind of directionless. It's very heavy going that way and that way at the top. And it's a bit like we said with, what's your name again? Siam's tree. Starting to get out very wide for a thin trunk. So if we've got a thin trunk, sometimes we're making a Liberati, it can quite often work. And I think, for me, that's what I would do with this tree. I won't talk about pots or anything else. You need to decide the actual shape and style you want to go. Essentially what you get out of it is direction, thin trunk, interesting trunk, trying to pick the best features on this tree, which is the shari, and yeah, the trunk's got some good movement. You've got to work with the foliage type, so let's go for sort of a weeping type foliage. Don't get too much on there, I don't think, for the size of this trunk. So they're the things that I'm pointing out on this. I'm sure there are lots of other things, but that's just where I am with that road. Look, it could be. I mean, we need to start taking branches out. You're talking about here. There could be, and one of those might go. But until the decision's made here, I don't want to be making too many decisions down here. This one I don't particularly like, coming out the front. I'd rather work with this one and bringing it down quite a lot to sit in about here. So if I was to remove one of those bar branches, it might be that one. But until any sort of thoughts made on the others, I wouldn't be deciding on which one.
Does that foliage remain that long?
Yeah, pretty much.
I used to have one of these and I sold it and I'm kicking myself because I think it's a wonderful species. A way to overcome these heavy branches at the top of the tree is to cut back. If you cut back, they will rebud. There's a branch here, like this one was cut back here. You can see it's rebudded in a few spots. And you're shortening the foliage, keeping it fine. By removing the mass of the branch, by removing a lot of the needles, you're slowing down the thickening of the branch. You want to do that a little bit up the top of the tree, just to shorten them back a bit. Then again, it's a weeping species. There was a wonderful one of these in the Botanical Gardens. I don't know if anyone can confirm. I hear it's been removed. But everyone in the room could have fit it under the canopy, and the branches are touching the ground. Gorgeous tree, and I think it's passed on, but I don't know if anyone else knows the tree I'm talking about.
I know the tree, but is gone.
I heard a couple of months ago that it was gone, but I haven't seen it myself. But wonderful species to work with, and you should encourage the weeping growth. Bring those tips down, let the branches go out and then come down quite low, and the fact that the trunk is fairly thin is not that significant because the foliage will grow down and they can make a gorgeous branch structure by going out, letting it weep down. Less strength in the top branches, the lower branches really strong and weeping all the way to the ground. It can be beautiful when it's done.
Just going back to this tree before Matt goes up on this. I did mention this tree is potted. Go moving that way, and there's been quite a rod over that side of the pot. Just what you want to do. Just to, I forgot to mention at the time, but I just remembered. Sorry, Matt. No, you're right. I
Need the opportunity to figure out what I want to say about this tree. Everything sounds really good so far. I would probably put a bit more direction either way. It's a bit hard to do because it's already been filtered, but left or right. By going the top to the right direction, you have to go quite far because it'll actually straighten the tree up. But if you go to the left, it'll sort of, that narrative will keep going a bit more. I personally just put a little bit. It's really hard to do. It'll probably fall over. That's not how I want to do it. But towards the left, I think a little bit more direction. But everything else is exactly what I would have done anyway, so that's all I need to add.
Any more questions? Sammy, you have good detail. So last column.
What I love about going to exhibitions, I think I half said this earlier, You see some trees and you think, I can't do that. This person's much cleverer than I am. Wonderful job. I just enjoy it. I'm not going to.
Is it meant to be a cascade? Semi-cascade?
It's the branches coming down a little bit below the lip of the pipe. I love the strength of this branch going out this way. It gives the tree great direction, personality. The pot may be heavier than it needs to be. It was displayed on a nice tall stand, I think, so that when you walk in the exhibition, it's right up in your face, so you can get a good look at it. Wonderful. Very, very much enjoyed looking at this tree. Again, this back branch could come down into the space a little bit, so the eye doesn't pass through the tree. But that's picking hairs. It's wonderful.
Jared made a good point. I pointed it out to a few people at the show. There was a few trees of this size displayed on these tables that height. Now it's all right for you guys sitting down, but if you're standing up, I want you to stand up. Tell me how much of that tree, the best part of that tree can you see? No one. So if you've got smaller trees, bring them up. This one was on a reasonably tall stand, but bring them up. You can make the stands up very easily, just get a piece of...
There was a lot of good imagination at the show.
Yeah.
You look what a few people did, it was very clever.
We've been talking about it at the Native Club, and there's been some just 4x4s, painted black if you like, that sort of thing, made with a little plank on top. And then they display the tree at that height, and you can actually see the beauty of the trees. And there was a lot in the show just gone, that were displayed correctly, but there was a lot that you just walk right past them. They might have been nice trees, well, I walked right past them because we're just looking down on them. You couldn't see the best part of the tree, which is this. So for display, do think about what you want to display them on. It's all right here where it's raised up. When it's down at that level, you're just not going to see it yet. This one actually was on stand, but there were some others, quite a number of trees which weren't seen at their best because they were just too low. And it doesn't have to be an expensive stand. I like this little tree too. I mean, the thing that is glaring at me is the top. The flow of this tree is this way, the top of the tree is going back that way. How you fix it, I'm not sure. Maybe some construction to pull that across. It might need a 12 months with a Rio bar in there or something to pull that across. Can everybody see what I'm talking about? So the movement of the trees this way, which is basically being dictated by this long branch that commands the direction of the tree. It's also planting that way, but at the top is going that way. Too much of a contradiction there. I would like to see, if David can, bend it there, at that point, right in there. Not sure if you can see that, Barry, but right at that point there. To do that, he's not going to do it with a bit of wire. You'll have to put maybe a Rio bar in. It won't be hard. Put a small little Rio bar in at the base there, coming up through there. That would probably enable you to pull that across. Okay, the thing's not going to be able to be shown for maybe 1 or 2 years, but it'll be a much better tree for it. So that's, maybe the fronts could be, the front's not bad. I think that's my main concern, is just the top there, just to be able to bring that across. Now these are all, the things we've talked about with a couple of David's trees now are a lot more picky, if you like, because the trees are at a higher level than some of the others. So now we're really talking about fine changes, but changes which will actually just take that tree to the next level. Some of the others, like this, might need a remake, but this just needs fine changes to pull it up to the next level. Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
Standing back here and looking at this direction of the tree, it's pretty obvious that the apex is actually going backwards. It's been wide, like this is the front of the tree. So a few minutes need to be spent just figuring out, pulling out some branches here and getting it facing to the front. Before, when I was looking at this tree, I had the idea that if it's going to be a cascade, we'll make it a cascade. So I thought probably removing this entire top portion and just making this part of the tree. But to understand what these guys are talking about when they're talking about the front, I've been watching the TV. And another option would be to remove the cascade branch and make it a little bit more Bunjin style. But having both, it's sort of, it feels like it hasn't had its mind made up. So I'd like to go one way or the other. And it would make a super impressive cascade because by removing this branch or not having this branch here, you would be able to see this very interesting trunk with it's like 3 roots basically, with heaps of movement and heaps of opportunity to put some shari in here and really light this section up, and then have maybe even going further with this cascade and having another layer and dropping these down, especially if you wire this out. I think everything would become quite a lot lower. And so it would really exaggerate the cascadiness of this tree. And it would also address the backwards apex by just cutting it off. And you could do some really cool gin, and you could tell a really good narrative about why the trees are cascaded. The whole of it. The tree had tried growing up there, catastrophic event made it change its mind, and now it's growing down here and it's thriving. So it also sort of plays well into the narrative as well of that tree. But yeah, like Kevin said, and I was going to say it myself, regardless if he said it, but because these are really refined trees, we're getting quite critical because they're the next level. So,
Would you gin those bits or just
yeah, I mean, I like to keep gins big because they don't get any bigger, they just get smaller. So, yeah, gins don't grow. So, make a big gin and let time and the weather and the stakes bring it back into something smaller. You can always make it smaller later, you can't make it any bigger. So, yeah, I would just keep it big and then just knock it back. That's what I see.
Any questions? No. So, there's a special surprise. You get to do one deciduous tree. Now, the reason we did the one deciduous tree is like a bit of a teaser for our October meeting. We're going to have a visiting tutor from New South Wales, Queensland, who's coming down, who loves deciduous trees and broadleaf. So, a bit of a teaser. If you enjoy it tonight, the October meeting is going to be all about deciduous. So, there you go. These guys can have a crack at it.
Can we make it two deciduous trees? Can you read people's name up at the same time? So, obviously 2 Japanese maples, totally different in structure. One's a 3-tree or 3 triple trunk, single trunk there. I'm not going to comment too much on it, but this root base is now starting to flare out quite nicely. I think it could even go better and quicker than this if it went into a slightly wider pot. I don't know how. Do you get up right underneath this, Barry, every time you root prune?
Yeah, it's scalloped.
Yeah, so that's what you need to do. I know this has got a lot bigger from when I saw it maybe 2 or 3 years ago. The more Barry does that, the more it's going to, these are going to fuse together, these roots, and it's going to flare out. I think probably, okay, this pot suits it for display, but maybe for developing the root system, maybe a slightly wider.
You're right, Quentin, because it's actually accelerated in the Nabari size when I put it into that pot from a smaller pot.
Yeah,
so it's increased really quickly.
And that will be the beauty of this, is the really wide spreading base. Contrast with this one, there's nothing on this side. And I talked to Peter about it, and I think, well, what's he going to do how would you resolve that? Any thoughts?
Root graft?
Root graft? That's what I would do. I'd be growing little seedlings here. They're tridents, aren't they, over there? Or they, yeah.
I know the Japanese maple.
Japanese maple. They're probably a bit big, the ones that are there, but if you can get some that are about, I don't know, 3 mil thick, maybe even a little bit thicker, you could graft in this area here. Can we shift that one for a second? I know the demonstrator in a couple of months' time will probably touch on this sort of thing as well. You can see it probably fairly obviously there. Really starting at a big spreading root, two powerful roots there, nothing that I can see this side. And it's not hard to graft roots on all the way around there. You could probably put 5 or 6 root grafts on there.
They're not all too thick, some thin.
I think they were sold though.
Oh, no, sorry.
But that's about the thickness,
I'll put it
sorry.
back.
No, that's all right. That's about the thickness you would want. What you do, you take a, we can do it several ways. You can do it with a grafting knife. I'll leave it there, Rob.
Okay.
You can cut some little notches right at the base here with a grafting knife, or even if you want a little grinding wheel if you like. Just cut notches in there. You can take a sliver of bark off the outside of one of these, jam it into the notch that you've got there, try and match up the K-mems. Sometimes it's not all that important with these things. This thing grows away rapidly, it's probably just going to fuse in and out, but it would be good to try and match up the K-mems where you've made the notches. But around here you could easily get 5 or 6 in there, and it takes only one season. It might sound like, geez, 10 years that tree's never going to be seen again, but it doesn't take long. Done properly, and I know the owner of this tree is very skillful with tools and he knows how to do stuff. One season, he's improved the root base of this no end. I'm not going to comment about the branching and all that sort of things. I really just wanted to talk about Navari with these 2 trees, but that's how this tree could go up a hell of a lot more notches with a better root system, because the branching is starting to get there, but the root system is really not terribly good. Yeah, so that's why I want to talk about that one.
Now's a really good time to look at the branch structure without any leaves in the way. I can see a few situations on this tree in particular where we've got the opportunity to go back to a lot softer growth. So now's the time to consider where you're going to cut. It would probably be better to cut just before bud burst or just at bud burst when you've got some sap flow to help heal that wound up quicker. You don't want rot to set in. Barry, if we can zoom in on this branch, because it's a prime example here. This heavy branch here, we could take that off and then use a bit of wire to bring these 2 together and fill in that little space. So that's a really good example, and there was a few up here I had a chance to look at. Situations like this where it's got quite heavy up here, and we've got a softer branch to come back to. So that's another prime example. So on your own maples, have a look at situations where you can take it back to interior softer growth, and a good opportunity to get rid of a lot of those straight sections. So cut out those straight sections, even if there's only a couple of buds back there to cut to, you can do it. And then following that, when all the buds come out, Japanese maple and trident maple, they'll come out with 2 leaves and they'll be hanging down, they won't be inflated yet, and they'll have a 3rd one coming out here. And you'll see the 2 little sets or just a little bud. Take your tweezers and pinch that out on the whole tree, and you might need to check your tree or all your maples every single day and do that. Go around and take all the new growth out. What all that'll do is each leaf has a bud in the bottom, and so you'll get 2 buds coming from that. You'll have the same situation again. You pinch again, and you can get from a single bud on each end here, you can get probably 4 to 8 pairs of leaves by the end of summer. And you can heavily ramify your tree very quickly by doing this process. So every day go out with your tweezers, pinch everything off, leave those 2 leaves there, and then watch 2 buds grow, and then repeat the process. If you notice that your leaves are getting quite small and quite weak, skip them. Maybe just do the super strong ones, but yeah, you've got to be hyper vigilant. You can't just do half the tree because you'll knock that part back, and then the other part that's allowed to grow will take over and will sap too much energy out of the side you've been pinching. So you have to do it on the whole tree, but yeah, go ahead and pinch all those and put that new growth out. And you'll run the fight very quickly by doing that. But these two trees, this tree as well, it could be cut back to some softer foliage. Anything straight up, straight down, or in a crotch. Yeah, that's the first to go, and then do your pinching, and you want pretty good ramification pretty quickly.
I know why a friend from Queensland likes deciduous trees. It's because Queenslanders don't get them. Yeah, we're spoiled in Melbourne. We get the best of the deciduous trees, and we can still grow the conifers, and we can still grow some tropical species. So we get a lot more than what other states can achieve. This tree, I looked at it in the exhibition, and just one thing that I would change. Got the tall central trunk and one trunk either side. The side trunks are a bit too even. I would try and keep this one a little bit shorter, or even, I like the way it's going towards the front. But I also think it's too symmetrical. I like a little bit of the side on view, maybe something like that I would prefer, so that the gap between the trunk here and here is not the same. You can see that? Just a smaller gap here than what it is here, instead of the angle it's plotted at. I think it's just too symmetrical. Just a little bit of side on profile view by just rotating it a little bit and having this tree a little bit on this side rather than straight down the middle. It isn't straight down the middle, but I would exaggerate it a little bit more.
The other issue it's got, which is something you could improve now, but I know I wouldn't be bothered, and Barry would. The trunk, all three trunks are the same thickness. So clearly to get away from that, the middle one, we'll call the major trunk's got to be allowed to grow maybe for a season or two to get thicker, but that's a massive call, because you then destroy a lot of the ramification up the top. But that would be something one could do. So it's something that's very minor criticism. I'd still be quite happy to have it as it is in my collection. But if I was starting off with three trees of equal size, don't let one grow quicker, one half as quick, and then one a quarter as quick. So you get a variation in the trunk size, and it would improve the look. But sometimes you get what you've got, and you've just got to work with it. Okay, that's me.
Excellent. Perfect timing. Well done, guys. So thank you, friends. I know Michael's itching to sell raffle tickets to everyone. Make sure you buy raffle tickets. Come have a look at the trees, explore around. We'll be drawing the raffle shortly. But buy some raffle tickets, enjoy a cup of coffee if you want. Thanks everyone. Now we need to pack the chairs as well, so start stacking them and we'll get it put them away. Thanks everyone for coming.